good morning. Thank you guys so much for joining us today on the Revival Center live stream Influence. I tell you what, we are excited to have you join us today, as always, on Tuesdays at 8:30. We do have some live chat going on behind the camera, so if you want to jump on there and interact with some of our staff members who kind of man that station, please do so. We would love to have that interaction with you. Today is going to be an exciting teaching, as we're going to be starting a brand new series that's going to last for several weeks here. Like it, subscribe to it. You guys have been doing a fantastic job of doing that. We've seen our subscriptions just go up since we've started this Influence Livestream, so thank you so very much for doing that. All right, are you ready? Make sure you have your coffee if you're watching this morning, because you're going to need it. We're about to challenge your mind. We're going to go to some places that we haven't been yet on this channel. So get ready. We're going to start in Genesis chapter 1, verse number 1. You already know what it says. It says, "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth." That one sentence right there, that one verse, puts controversy in the air. If you're an atheist, or if you're an agnostic, if you do not believe in intelligent design, if you do not believe in the very first verse, then the rest of the Bible is going to be at odds with your worldview. However, if you are a believer and you do believe in God, then even that verse is still going to cause you some questions on how old is the earth. Is the earth billions and billions of years old, as some of the atheist scientists say? Is there a gap theory between verse 1 and then the rest of creation story? Or do you take it literally? Is it every day God created something? So there's a lot of questions that come from that very first verse. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Now, when you study the root word there of the heavens and earth, you get the word cosmos. It's just another word for the universe. So it is the study of the origin of evolution and the fate of the universe. Some of the best minds in history, both philosophers and scientists, have applied themselves to an understanding of just what the universe is and what it came from, suggesting the process a bewildering variety of theories and ideas, from the theory of the cosmic egg, the theory of the Big Bang, and beyond, even to intelligent design and creationism. So this is what we're going to be studying. And in the 20th century, we've witnessed, listen to what I'm about to say, it's very provocative. In the 20th century, we've witnessed more evidence accumulate for the existence of God and the supernatural origin of the Bible than in any time in history. And that is a mouthful for me saying that, because I want you to challenge me on this. Go back and look through the thousands of years of history. Look at philosophers. Look at scientists. They all would teach and they all believe that the universe was eternal, meaning that it did not have a beginning. That the universe, the sun, the moon, the stars, earth has always been here. And for thousands of years, they taught this to their students. The philosophers taught this to those who would listen to them. That time, space, and matter had always existed. This is what they believed. Just to give you a bit of a backdrop, again, you can check this out to understand that what I'm telling you is the truth. 4th century BC, the Greek philosopher Aristotle would teach his students, and he stressed that the world, the universe, the cosmos existed unchanged and static throughout eternity. This is what they believed. Later, in the 6th century AD, for the very first time, there were several medieval Christians and medieval Jewish scholars that began to put forward a different theory. That the theory was that the cosmos, the earth, has not always eternally been here, but that it was in fact finite, meaning that it had a time, therefore it had a beginning. That was the first time that seed was dropped in. And then later, but still, the vast majority of the scientific field and of the philosophers of the day still believed that the cosmos was eternal. And as far as 1687 with Sir Isaac Newton, who still believed and who still taught that the cosmos, the universe, earth, the sun, moon, and the stars was still static, was still steady, and was still infinite, in which Einstein was brought up under. So when Albert Einstein came to the forefront, he had been taught these concepts. And so he believed also, as a young man, that the earth was eternal and the cosmos was static. However, the model of the universe that was assumed by Albert Einstein began to give way as he began to understand the theory of gravity and these types of things. And dynamically, the stable universe, which was either expanding or contracting, he didn't believe either of those things as he came onto the scene. Later, what happened in the 20th century, beginning with the discoveries of Albert Einstein, evidence began to accumulate that has proven without a doubt that the universe is actually finite, meaning that there is a beginning. The Big Bang model of the universe, after Hubble's demonstration of the continuously expanding universe in 1929, really began to open up people's minds to a different teaching in the sciences and in philosophy. Some versions of the Big Bang Theory has generally been the mainstream scientific view. The theory describes the universe as originating in an infinitely tiny, infinitely dense point, singularity, like a very small ball, so to speak, between 13 to 14 billion years ago, from where it has been expanding ever since. So that they know now that the universe is still expanding. So what they did is they rewound the clock. So if the universe is still expanding and you hit rewind, then it comes back together, and that's how they came up with that theory. But the point that I want you to see before we kind of transition here to understand the differences that the earth is not eternal and how they came to that understanding is this. For thousands of years, very smart people, intelligent people, masterminds of their day were simply wrong about earth. They were wrong about science of the day. They thought it to be true, but it was changed. And sometimes, ladies and gentlemen, whoever's listening to me out there, we must not take what the scientists say or what the theories say and just assume that they know what they're talking about and that they cannot be wrong. It is okay to question their theories. So I raised my children up in public school. Public school, they teach evolution. They teach that men and women came from monkeys and things such as this. I do not believe that. That is a theory. And so I challenge that theory. I do not believe that. I believe God's Word. And just because someone may teach that and truly believe that, they cannot prove that, and it's okay to question that. So I encourage you to push back on those types of teachings of the scientists and people who think that they know everything, because there is a slight possibility that they don't know everything, and it may not be proven in their lifetime, but history in the future may prove them to be wrong. I mean, I'm not going to get into all the controversies that we have just went through over the last 3 years with COVID-19, but we can go back and look at some of the headlines of the news media, compare that to today with actual data, and we can begin to see how they were wrong. And so this is always played out. Let me keep going. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. So what Albert Einstein began to understand through these new scientific discoveries in the 1920s is that time and space and matter had a beginning. You got to listen to me. It had a beginning. This presents an interesting problem for every atheist that is out there. Every atheist. You see, it would be very easy and more simple-minded to believe that earth has always been here, because if earth has always been here, then there's no need for a creator. But the fact that you can literally prove scientifically that there is a beginning, then that means there has to be a creator of that beginning. Because with the idea of the eternal universe, if time, space, and matter had always existed with no beginning, then there would be no need for a beginner. But with a finite universe, one in which has a proven beginning and a proving start date. As an atheist, you're now stuck with a dilemma. And that dilemma is this: who started it? Who started it? So what I'm about to play is clip number 1, and we have 2 clips that we're going to play here. But clip number 1 is it comes from a documentary called Intelligent Design by Ben Stein. You can go on YouTube and you can watch all of them, and I would encourage you to do so. It was from this documentary that inspired this teaching, because Ben Stein does a fabulous job of laying out intelligent design as opposed to atheists. So this first one is when Ben Stein was interviewing a very famous atheist. It's not very long, couple of about 4 or 5 minutes, so enjoy this clip.
This is the story of a small planet in space called Earth.
For a typical Darwinian explanation of how life originated, Dr. Wells directed me toward this documentary.
The chemical elements essential for life, hydrogen, oxygen, carbon, and nitrogen, were now in place. What was needed was a way of combining them. Perhaps the energy came from lightning. Whatever it was.
Excuse me?
Whatever it was, energy managed to arrange these chemical ingredients in just the right way.
Whatever it was? I was hoping for something a little more scientific. The most popular idea has been that life emerged spontaneously from primordial soup. In 1953, Stanley Miller mixed water, methane, ammonia, and hydrogen to simulate the early Earth's atmosphere. Then he ran electricity through it in an attempt to jumpstart life.
It's alive! It's alive!
It didn't work. While the initial results seemed promising, 50 years later, most serious scientists have abandoned this approach in favor of alternate theories. Prominent Darwinist Michael Roos attempted to explain one of them to me. He wasn't kidding. How did we get from an inorganic world to the world of the cell?
Well, one popular theory is that it might have started off on the backs of crystals.
My crystal ball.
Molecules piggybacked on the back of crystals forming, and that this led to more and more complex. But of course, the nice thing about crystals is every now and then you get mistakes, mutations, and that this opens the way for natural selection.
But at one point there was not a living thing.
Yeah.
And then there was a living thing. How did that happen?
Well, this is I've just told you. And I don't see any reason why you shouldn't go from very simple to more and more complex to more and more complex.
I don't either, but I don't know how you get from mud to a living cell. That's my question.
Yes, well, I've told you.
I think it was on the back
Try
of
one more
crystals.
time.
On the backs of crystals.
On the backs of crystals is at least one hypothesis, yes.
So that's your theory, and you think that is more likely and less far-fetched than intelligent design?
I think it is.
I wouldn't put Ben Stein's money on Dr. Roos's joyriding crystals, but it did make me wonder, what were the chances of life arising on its own?
It's been speculated that probably there would have to be a minimum of about 250 proteins to provide a minimal life function. If that's really true, then I think it's almost inconceivable that life could have happened in some simple step-by-step way.
Okay, so the simplest form of life requires at least 250 proteins to function. What's so difficult about that?
Welcome to the Casino of Life. Who wants to spin for a chance to win?
Oh, sure. I'll give it a shot. What do I win?
Take a look at this.
Huh? How about the world's first single-cell organism? This perfectly aligned string of proteins could be yours.
Now, take a spin.
I won.
Tina, tell him how many times he needs to do that to win the prize.
250.
That's right, folks, and all in the correct order.
But that's impossible.
We've heard that before, haven't we, Richard?
Come on, Mother Nature, do your thing. You stupid machine! I hate you!
So how awesome was that? Was that not an incredible interview? Stay right here because we're about to play another one, but I want you to catch what Ben Stein is doing in this documentary. He is asking the question, who started it? If you do believe in the Big Bang, I personally don't. I believe Genesis 1:1. But for those who do, who started the universe? We know that it had a start. These atheists and agnostics cannot deny that it didn't have a start. I mean, that is just something that they cannot actually prove. So the Bible teaches creationism. This is what we teach at our church. It is what I taught my children. It's what I believe in. Other non-believers who don't believe in the Big Bang Theory have offered the theory of intelligent design. Intelligent design is not creationism, but it is a step in the right direction. Many atheists who hold to the Big Bang Theory and evolution wholly reject intelligent design because it opens the door for the biblical teaching of God who created it. So they are very anti-intelligent design. They're very anti anything outside of their world view. So I have another interview that I'm about to show you, kind of along the same lines. It's Ben Stein interviewing another famous atheist, and I want you to pay close attention and watch what happens and what this atheist admits.
Hello, Professor Dawkins. How are you? I'm Ben Stein. I'm so sorry to keep you waiting. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
You have written that God is a psychotic delinquent invented by mad, deluded people.
No, I didn't say quite that. I said something rather better than that.
Oh, well, please tell us what you said. Please tell us what you said.
Well, I would have to read it from the book.
No, please.
The God of the Old Testament is arguably the most unpleasant character in all fiction. Jealous and proud of it, a petty, unjust, unforgiving control freak, a vindictive, bloodthirsty ethnic cleanser, a misogynistic, homophobic, racist, infanticidal, genocidal, filicidal, pestilential, megalomaniacal, sadomasochistic, capriciously malevolent bully.
So that's what you think of God?
Yeah.
How about if people believed in a God of infinite lovingness and kindness and forgiveness and generosity, sort of like the modern day God? Why spoil it for them?
Oh,
why not just let them have their fun and enjoy it?
I mean, I don't want to spoil anything for anybody. I write a book, people can read it if they want to. I believe that it is a liberating thing to free yourself from primitive superstition.
So religion is a primitive superstition?
Oh, I think it is, yes.
So you believe it's liberating to tell people that there is no God?
I think a lot of people, when they give up God, feel a great sense of release and freedom.
Why do you think that? I mean, what's your dad? What's your scientist? What's your dad?
I think, well, I've had a lot of letters saying that, and I've...
There are 8 billion people in the world, Dr. Dawkins. How many letters have you had?
No, I haven't done that. That's quite true.
Professor Dawkins seemed so convinced that God doesn't exist that I wondered if he would be willing to put a number on it.
Well, it's hard to put a figure on it, but I mean, I put it as something like, 99% against or something.
Well, how do you know it's 99% against, say, not 97%?
No, I did. You asked me to put a figure on it, and I'm not comfortable putting a figure on it. I think it's, I just think it's very unlikely.
What? But you couldn't put a number on it?
No, of course not. No.
So it could be 49%.
Well, it would be. I mean, I think it's unlikely, and it's quite far from 50%.
How do you know?
I don't know. I mean, I put an argument in the book.
Well, then who did create the heavens and the earth?
Why do you use the word who? You see, you immediately beg the question by using the word who.
Well, then how did it get created?
Well, by a very slow process.
Well, how did it start?
Nobody knows how it started. We know the kind of event that it must have been. We know the sort of event that must have happened for the origin of life.
And what was that?
It was the origin of the first self-replicating molecule.
Right. How did that happen?
I told you we don't know.
So you have no idea how it started?
No. Nor has anybody.
Nor has anyone else. What do you think is the possibility that intelligent design might turn out to be the answer to some issues in genetics or in evolution?
It could come about in the following way. It could be that at some earlier time, somewhere in the universe, a civilization evolved by probably some kind of Darwinian means to a very, very high level of technology and designed a form of life that they seeded onto perhaps this planet. Now, that is a possibility and an intriguing possibility. And I suppose it's possible that you might find evidence for that if you look at the details of biochemistry, molecular biology. You might find a signature of some sort of designer.
Wait a second. Richard Dawkins thought intelligent design might be a legitimate pursuit?
And that designer could well be a higher intelligence from elsewhere in the universe. Well, but that higher intelligence would itself have had to have come about by some explicable or ultimately explicable process. It couldn't have just jumped into existence spontaneously. That's the point.
So Professor Dawkins was not against intelligent design, just certain types of designers, such as God.
So the Hebrew God, the God of the Old Testament, he doesn't exist in your view?
Certainly. I mean, that would be a very unpleasant prospect.
And the Holy Trinity of the New Testament,
nothing like that.
Do you believe in any of the Hindu gods? Like Vishnu?
How can you ask such a question?
You don't,
right? How could I? I mean, why would I, given that I don't believe in any others?
You don't believe in the Muslim God?
No. I mean, why do you even need to ask?
Well, I just wanted to be sure. So you don't believe in any God anywhere?
Any God anywhere would be completely incompatible with anything that I've said.
I assume. Yeah. I just wanted to make sure. You don't believe in any God anywhere?
No.
What if after you died you ran into God? He said, "What have you been doing, Richard? I mean, what have you been doing? I've been trying to be nice to you. Yeah. I gave you a multi-million-dollar paycheck over and over again with your book, and look what you did."
Bertrand Russell had that point put to him, and he said something like, "Sir, why did you take such pains to hide yourself?"
But if the intelligent design people are right, God isn't hidden. We may even be able to encounter God through science, if we have the freedom to go there. What could be more intriguing than that?
Didn't you enjoy that conversation, that interview? I certainly did. So listen, either the universe started itself, which is logically delusional, or it was created by a first cause, a being that preceded the dimensions, preceded space, time, and matter. If time, space, and matter had a beginning, that presents some interesting possibilities. A being that exists prior to the creation of that time, of that space, and of that matter would have the ability as the creator to see the end of the time, space, and matter because he exists outside of what he created. You got to see this. This is why I believe that when God looks at us, when God looks at earth, he looks at it as a completed format. He looks at it from where he said in the beginning all the way to Revelations. He sees all of it at the exact same time as a completed product. Even though we're still living this thing out day by day in doing our thing, God has the ability to see the beginning from the end, as Jesus Christ called himself, "I am the Alpha and the Omega." So if you could picture it like this right here. Imagine there is a big Macy Days parade that is happening, and you were in a helicopter and you were overlooking the parade, and you could see the first float of the parade, and you could also see the last float of the parade all at the same time. If you can understand that, then what you would be seeing is creation from God's perspective. You could see the first float, which represents creation, and then you would see the last float, which represents the end of times in the book of Revelation. So a transcending creator would not only exist outside of the time and dominion, but he would also be outside of the space dominion. A transcending creator would have the ability to enter in and tweak and tinker with the time and space dominion of His creation anytime He would want to, because He's the creator of it. Because this creator would have the ability to act in the creating domain, He also has the ability to make contact with those in which He created. And this is where the gospel begins to be presented. That there are many ways for this to be accomplished, for the Creator to interact with His creation. Number one, the Creator could split the sky open, stick His face in and say, "Hello, I am God and you are not," to every generation. If He wanted to do that, He could, because He created it. Number two, every generation, He could write His name in the sky, a little message that I am God and you are not. Every generation, if He wanted to do that, He could. Number three, He could pierce the veil of space and time dominion and enter time and space and dwell among us as a baby and walk among us. Emmanuel, God is with us. He has the ability to interact with us the way He wants to interact with us, and demonstrate His deity by controlling the forces of nature. He could walk on the water if He wanted to. He could speak to the winds if He wanted to. He is the Creator. He could heal every disease. He could raise dead men from the grave. He could forgive sin. He can do anything He wants to do because He is the Creator. He could call a cloud to come down and to take Him up and behind the veil of the sky and be seated at the right hand of God because He is the Creator. He could speak to us audibly if He wanted to. He could come to every single human being and speak to us in an audible voice. Or He could speak to us in written form. This God who created everything, He could write a Bible just like the Bibles that we have right here. He could write these Bibles. He could put His words in written format, give it to His creation and say, "Read about me." So there are many ways that God could reveal Himself to us. And whatever the method, if the Creator has the technology to create us, then He certainly has the technology to get a message to us, which is the power of His words. The Bible not only claims to be that message from the Creator, it also declares in both testaments that the very Creator of the universe has manifested Himself physically in a human body, and He has in fact walked among us in the form of Jesus Christ. Through the Scripture, the Bible declares that it is the very Word of God. It is, "Thus saith the Lord." The Word of the Lord came to me, are common places throughout the Bible. The Bible is able to authenticate that its message is indeed from God, the Creator of all things. Number one, because the Bible declares God is omniscient. The Bible says that this Creator is all-knowing. That means God possesses perfect knowledge of the universe. If He made it, then He should know how it works and how it functions. And we would expect that any book declaring itself to be the Word of God would be 100% accurate when speaking of the nature of the universe, the laws of physics, the nature of our solar system, and the nature of the planet and life forms. Because it is in this book that the Creator says, "I created it," so whatever He writes in His book ought to be 100% accurate about the things that He created. We would expect it to be 100% accurate if it was truly a word from God. This class, this teaching, this interaction that you and I are having is going to show you how incredibly accurate the Bible really is. Number two, another way God could show that His book really came from Him would to have it in a scientific foreknowledge. What do I mean by that? Scientific foreknowledge. Let me explain. One question that is often asked of the Bible is, how do we know it's actually inspired by God? There are several ways to know it's inspired by God, and not just merely the personal opinions of the 40 plus authors who wrote it over 1,500 years. But one way is the hundreds of prophecies in the Old and the New Testament that have already come to pass without a single mistake. Please understand what I'm saying. Another way is the scientific foreknowledge that appears all throughout the Bible. In this case, what we mean by scientific foreknowledge is scientific information that was revealed in the Bible long before mankind discovered or verified it through extra biblical means. So you got to see and understand how powerful this is. There are descriptions of scientific knowledge in the Bible thousands of years before they were actually discovered by modern science. And we're going to be talking about those things in this particular teaching. So lastly, number 3, and we're going to close it up here. Another way the Bible authenticates its supernatural origin is through the design of the text. There are a number of very interesting textual design features that are way beyond the possibility of coincidence. The Bible consists of 66 books penned over, I just said, over 40 authors in 1,500 years. Now listen to how powerful that is. Over 1,500 years that this thing took to compile. Every sentence, every number, every placed name and word is there by supernatural design without any contradictions. So this is going to close us up for part 1 of God and Science. I hope you enjoyed this teaching today. I hope that it whet your appetite. And I hope I see you next Tuesday at 8:30 as we continue to talk about intelligent design, about how God created the heavens and the earth, God and science. Thank you so much. Like it, subscribe. I'll see you next Tuesday.